A new season of Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, dawns this weekend in Northern California's Sonoma Raceway. This classic venue has been challenging road racing's best since it's opened its doors in 1968, with its unique blend of twists, turns, climbs, and drops through picturesque California wine country. A field of 18 cars are set to take on that challenge in the second race of the 2023 vintage. And down among those cars is our own Amanda Busick.
And challenging it has been already here this weekend. The best to describe the racing we've seen at Sonoma already has been unpredictable. And there are 18 cars behind me ready to make an unpredictable race here again today, represented in 7 different manufacturers on track today as well. When we think of the unpredictable racing, let's take a look around Sonoma Raceway, the 12 turns here in the Sonoma Valley.
Hi, my name is Stephen McAleer. I'm going to take you around a lap of Sonoma, the Fanatec track preview. This will be in our GT3R Rennsport 1 Community Beer Works Porsche. Great fun around place in Sonoma. So we're going to come across start and finish line here. We'll be turning in flat out in 5th gear, up the hill, working the aero in here. Just as we get to the yellow line and pit out, start our braking, down 3 gears, down to 2nd. A little bit understeer right in the center there, using the traction control back to power, up to 3rd gear. Using the compression on the left-hander here, mid-track, we'll lose the front again, right in the center, quite hard to see over the top of the hill. Hard braking, really hard to get the car down to that apex, again in the TC, back to full power. If the car's handling good, it should be full speed through here, coming up over the blind crest for the carousel. A little bit more speed in there for the next time around, that's still working in there. So keeping our momentum, back to power at the end of the curbing on the left, all the way down into turn 7, up to 5th gear. Really bumpy braking zone in here, very easy to overdo it. Hard braking, down into 2nd, cross over the white line, hopefully they don't get me into trouble for that. 2nd brake, back to power. We're going to be full speed all the way through the S's here. It was a little damp this morning. Tiny brush of the brakes on the left-hander. Again, just working in the aero here, should be flat through this right-hander, still some work to do there. Hard braking at the 2 1/4 board, right down into 1st gear, using the curb on the right, up over the curb on the left, back to power. Goal is to get through this right-hander full speed, which is quite easy right now. Heading up to the last corner, we're going to try and get to that first cone separating pits and the track. Back to braking, down into 2nd gear, down into 1st. Patience, and back to power. Go, go, go. There's a lap around Sonoma.
Garage for a brand new season of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Series right here at Sonoma Raceway. We have 18 cars this weekend that are going to take to the 12-turn track here with 7 manufacturers represented. There are 5 cars racing in the Pro category, including this 93 Acura of Racer's Edge. Your Pro-Am reigning champions are moving to the Pro category, and they'll see if they can get Racer's Edge their 4th championship in 5 seasons. And speaking of the 7 manufacturers represented here this weekend, the Ferrari 296 is making its SRO Global debut here at Sonoma. This one specifically driven by Manny Franco and Alessandro Balzan, who made an impressive debut last year at Sebring. They're going to try to stop that 93 Racer's Edge from that Pro Championship. 12 cars are set to battle in the Pro-Am category this season, including the runner-up from last year, the duo of Charlie Luck and Jan Halen, who happens to be with us here in the garage right now. This is the brand new Porsche 911 GT3R for this season. But Wright Motorsports is actually going to have 2 Porsches on track this year as well, as Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson join us from Pirelli GT4. When you think of the battle in Pro-Am and you think of who is going to be in that championship contention, you have to look no other than right here by the CrowdStrike entry of George Kurtz and Colin Brown. These guys have raced together for many years, and we know how dynamic George can be on tracks just like Sonoma Raceway, protected by CrowdStrike.
Yesterday was race 1 of the 2023 season, and this is how it got underway. Great start for Eric Filgaris in the RS1 Porsche. His first start in a GT3 car, and he starts on pole, Calvin.
Yeah, had a great run there, but that BMW, that third car in line, looked to have a lot of pace in the hands of Chandler Hull.
It did indeed. In the back of the pack, a relatively harmless spin for Charlie Luck cost him quite a bit of track position. This was an interesting moment leaving the pit lane, but it all got sorted out.
It did. Bill Oberlin gets the leap out of his pit box, but there was overlap. Elliott Skier gets that position back immediately by the order of the stewards.
Ross Gunn fighting with Daniel Morad. Great nip and tuck between these two over the course of multiple laps. Daniel Morad ultimately prevailed, and here was Spencer Pumpelly going on the attack late.
Yes, the ACI Porsche was absolutely flying during the second half of this race. Look for them today.
Able to pip Bill Oberlin there, but at the front, no one could challenge RS1. Stephen McAleer and Eric Filgaris opened the season with a win at Sonoma Raceway 1 day ago. Back down now to the pit lane in Amanda.
And another team that found a win in category in the Pro-Am, it was the duo of Elliott Skier and Adam. And Adam, you saw the top step in what you said, your favorite thing. You were born to drive a GT3 car. What has this weekend been for the Dreams?
Well, it started off a little rough, had a little bit of a shunt on the Thursday test day, but I just tried to keep my head up. Elliott was great. He was great in supporting me, and so was the rest of the team. He is absolutely exceptional at what he does, and with him as my co-driver, anything is possible.
Of the 7 manufacturers that are on the grid here today, in the top 5, we're going to see 4 of those. And guys, I was the spoil of about 5,000 different fans that were on track here taking in the action as we kicked it off. And Ryan, we're going to have some very impressive words that drivers want to hear coming up. I know you guys are ready too.
Oh, we certainly are. Just can't wait to hear those words, to fire up these engines. Race 1 was a lot of fun yesterday, Calvin, and we get to do it all over again today.
We do, and it's pretty breezy down there, and these cars are affected by these strong winds. We spoke to some drivers in a race earlier today who said the same thing, so we'll have to see how that is going to play out. I mean, the cars do come out of the tire blanket, so they'll have some initial tire temp, but very mild conditions here in Sonoma this week.
Interesting to see some of the fast cars from yesterday starting deep in the field today. That includes the overall winner from yesterday, starting all the way back in the 12th position for the second race of the weekend. A great field of GT3 machines there on the pit lane. Let's go down once again, trackside to Amanda Busick.
These fans are ready, the cars are ready, the drivers are ready. From United Airlines, a managing director with the best words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines!
Thanks very much to Sean Mason for the enthusiastic command. That's what we like to hear, and you can see the Pirellis bolted on to the race cars fresh out of the tire ovens. They are ready to go. Calvin Fish is alongside. My name is Ryan Marine. Amanda Busick, you've been introduced to already, and we are about to go racing for the second time this weekend at a fabulous racetrack here at Sonoma Raceway. But it is a cold day. It is a blustery day. The challenges, they are aplenty across these lineups. There you look at the ST Racing car that heads out onto the racetrack, leading the way. Couple of formation laps about to take place. Toyota GR Supra safety car, official vehicle of SRO America in 2023 at the front of this field, and it is the ST Racing BMW that is due to start on the pole position. John Edwards rapid in qualifying yesterday to grab that spot. They had an issue of some kind in the race, so we never got a chance to see just how good they could be. I suspect we'll get a good chance today.
I think so. They're pretty confident here. They feel they've got that problem sorted out. John Edwards, BMW factory pilot, joining ST Racing for this championship season. And he's pretty bullish about their potential here. They've got 2 sets of sticker tires. There's a 4 sets of tires allotment that you have to use for quali in the race, and they've elected to run both their quali sets yesterday. and they're going to have a little sharper rubber than maybe some of the competitors here at the start of this race.
On board just a moment ago in the CrowdStrike by Riley Motorsports Mercedes-AMG, Colin Brown, who shares this car with George Kurtz, perennial contenders in the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, and they're really good buddies. Both John Edwards on the pole and Colin Brown alongside him both reside in Charlotte. They spent a lot of time families together, and remarkably, in the space of a couple of months, we got news that both of their wives are expecting. So they might not have as much sleep this time next year when they're getting ready for their race weekends.
Will be the front row, BMW and Mercedes. Then you find the TR3 Mercedes, piloted, at least at the start of this race, by Daniel Morad, the breakout star, if you will, from the Indy 8-hour 1 year ago. Had a starring role and a substitute role at the 24 Hours of Daytona earlier this year, and Daniel was super quick, racing his way through the field in race 1 yesterday.
Oh, he's absolutely flying. He had about a second on the eventual leader, Stephen McAleer. So that TR3 Mercedes, this is a great team, making a move from Italian competition, Lamborghinis and Ferraris in the past. They've made the move to this Mercedes AMG platform with immediate success. A lot of speed potential there. Look for Daniel Morad to be knocking on the door for the lead here early.
If we're talking about breakout stars, the guy starting the 4th place car on the grid, Elliott Skier, could very well fall into that category this year. Showed great pace running alongside the likes of Bill Auberlen and Colin Brown yesterday. He's a fast guy, doesn't have a ton of GT3 experience. Look for him to make a name for himself this season.
Ian Adelson has just been remarkable here this weekend. Obviously, Amanda spoke to his teammate a little earlier, but Elliott Skier, about 10 years ago, he really burst on the scene, then he disappeared for a little bit, but he's back with a vengeance and really did a great job in capturing that Pro-Am victory here yesterday.
And one finger held aloft means we are 1 lap away from going green flag racing for the 2nd time this weekend here at Sonoma Raceway for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS. The field of 18 making their way around for the final time before we go green. Quickly, one last time down to the pit lane.
Well, Ryan, I'm actually looking at the bridge that goes over turn 1, and there are hundreds of fans ready to take in the start of this race. One of the spectators that I found of the 5,000 fans here on the grid was the president of SRO America, Greg Gill. And you look at the energy around this race weekend. How important is this for the series?
It's awesome. This is our home. This is where the first World Challenge race was held over 30 years ago. So to have this as part of our SRO family, the great support from the Bay Area fans is fantastic. We're so excited. We want to thank everybody for coming out.
Thanks to Greg, and he has to be happy. Stability, really the name of the game over the last few years. The rules have stayed pretty much intact. The grids are growing, going from strength to strength, and it's a wide open championship this year. You may have noticed no K-Pax racing in 2023, which means it's anyone's championship to go out and win.
It is wide open. We expected some surprises, and we saw it immediately yesterday in race 1.
K-Pax heading over to Europe for a GT World Challenge Europe campaign this season. Now you look at the starting grid, and plenty of big names and heavy hitters across all the classes here, because by regulation in the Pro-Am lineups, it is the pros who take the start in race 2 of the weekend, which means it's down to their less experienced counterparts to seal the deal this afternoon.
Yeah, and that's always interesting. So these pros are going to try and maximize that pit stop window, so you'll see them dive deep into that 10-minute window that happens at 40 minutes into this race, try and get as much speed out of their cars potentially. And then typically there's a bigger delta, bigger difference between the performances of the AM drivers. So sometimes you'll have that track position, maybe a podium run going, maybe the lead of this race, and you're literally just trying to hang on and get to that checkered flag.
It's a fantastic mix. 3 classes, the bulk of them in Pro-Am. There is a sizable group, though, in the Pro class, a single AM class entry, but all running to the same GT3 specification, all in equally balanced GT3 cars. We're about to turn them loose for the 2nd time this weekend and in the 2023 season. It will be BMW factory driver John Edwards who leads the field into the VP Racing acceleration zone. We just wait for him to put the loud pedal down, and then we'll be racing for the 2nd time of the season. There's the green flag, and the race is on. Edwards leads Brown, but Morad takes a peek up the inside, making a bid for 2nd. Further back, big move for Mario Farnbacher, looking to grab a spot at the start.
Yeah, Spence Pumpelli there in the blue and white striped Porsche sits in the 6th position. Jan Halen right behind him in the green and red and white machine, just going through turn 3 right there.
Side by side up the hill. This is the climb to turn 3 and 3A. I saw a car spinning around at the back of that shot, just cresting the hill. We'll try and ID that car if we can. Most of the top 10 has sorted itself out, but now single file all the way front to back.
See that green and black Porsche just coming into frame right there. That's Stephen McAleer, yesterday's winner, starting from P12. A lot of work to do.
Tom Dyer for GMG Racing, a car he shares with James Safronis. He appears to be the one that went around. Not sure if it was unassisted or not.
For the lead.
Oh, it's a big move up the inside, banging doors. Colin Brown trying to snag the lead away from his buddy, John Edwards.
And they go side by side, and the elbows are out here early. Watch for Morad to try and take advantage. Colin Brown clears Edwards for the lead. He is sideways there on relatively cold tires.
And here comes Morad. He smells blood in the water. Up to the inside. Mercedes goes 1-2.
Beautifully dodged there by the Canadian Daniel Morad. Edwards is going to get back up on the wheel. He'll not be happy about that, losing those positions so early in this race. Colin Brown has scampered away a little bit here in the CrowdStrike entry.
Canadian driver in Morad passing the Canadian team at ST Racing. Little internecine battle between the Canadian connection within this championship. At the end of the first lap, though, it is Riley Motorsports with CrowdStrike Racing. Colin Brown at the pointy end. Morad slots in second. Edwards has to settle in third.
Tires will start coming to their sweet spot right now. Pressures will be building, temperatures will be building at the same time, but Colin Brown has escaped. Look how much of a gap he's pulled immediately on the second Mercedes in line.
Just behind him, Elliott Skier holding serve. He qualified 4th, that's where he runs, but he's got company in the form of the Racer's Edge Motorsports Acura NSX GT3 Evo. If you followed the championship last year, Mario and Ashton Harrison, they won the Pro-Am championship. They've taken a step up. They're in the Pro Class this season.
As Amanda said, they're going for their 4th championship in the last 5 years. Remarkable record by John Meraki and that whole Racer's Edge group who campaigned this red NSX that you're looking at right there. The Super Mario behind the wheel, sharing that car with Ashton Harrison.
Running lockstep behind Mario, you'll find Spencer Pumpelly, who yielded that spot to Farnbacher on the opening lap. Then Jan Halen in one of the newer version 992 derived Porsche 911 GT3Rs. The Porsche he's chasing is the previous generation based on the 991 version of the 911.
Yeah, we just spoke to John Wright, team leader there at Wright Motorsports, about this new car. He said that Jan Halen said this weekend this is the best handling Porsche he's ever had here at Sonoma Raceway.
That is high praise indeed. And right now, Halen looking to use that weapon. He takes a peek to the inside, and he's got Porsche company behind him too. It's another one of the new generation cars. Youngster Trenton Estep for a new team, MDK Motorsports, having a solid run.
Yeah, and he's elbowed his way past Bill Oberlin on that lap, so a change of position there for P8 overall.
Halen takes a peek, a little twitch from Pumpelly, who's got his hands full. Here comes
we go.
Edwards. He wants that spot back of the 2 rub doors.
Yeah, and he nearly lost it right there. There's a good catch there by John Edwards, trying to be forceful there, and Morad didn't want to give it to him for a moment there. Looked like that BMW was going to go around.
Edwards won't like it one bit. Then he dropped from the pole to 3rd on that first lap. Colin Brown has scampered away. He leads by 1.3 seconds. Edwards, though, trying to find a weakness in the defense from Daniel Morad. Hit Morad. He wasn't about to let Edwards by without a fight.
Now, that's a good little battle that's going on there, and I think those two duking it out like that has allowed Colin Brown to extend that lead at the front of the pack here. Oberlin trying to rebound here, get back on the MDK Porsche. Great new team. 2 really young pilots in Trenton Estep and his 17-year-old teammate Seth Lucas, who will finish off this race here today in team number 2.
They're running in the Pro Class, one of 5 cars in that category this weekend. On board with Stephen McAleer, the car that won overall yesterday thanks to a brilliant opening stint. First ever race stint in a GT3 car yesterday from Eric Filgaris, and he led it until he handed the car off to Stephen McAleer and did so with an 8.5 second lead.
Oh, there's Jan Halen, deep late move on Spencer Pumpelly. Pumpelly gives him just enough breathing room so they can coexist exiting the corner. Great experience shown there by Spencer and not turning in.
And Spencer knows well the track comes back to him. Turn 12, the final turn, a left-hander. Same here for this turn 1. And then up the hill they go. right-hander, turn 2, waiting at the top, and that's where Halen elects to pounce once again, pulling alongside, but can't draw even.
Yeah, and as we said before, that's the new generation Porsche there, the 45 machine going up against one of the older generation 911 GT3Rs. Campaigned by ACI Motorsports. Great new group. Great to see them on the grid this year.
At the tail of this train,
look,
is
Orbelin
McAleer.
forceful to the inside.
Yeah.
Look for the gap. Estep immediately closes it as they enter the carousel.
This has got to be a great learning experience for Trenton Estep. He's driven some big cars in some big races, but certainly light on experience relative to Bill Oberlin. Bill's got that BMW on the prowl, lets it drift to the outside, but can't draw alongside and keep it there.
Got to be careful. McAleer is sniffing right behind him. For Stephen McAleer, I think he realizes his teammate Eric Filgaris will probably be one of the quickest AM drivers in the lineup once they get to that stage. They're running in the pro class, but Eric is a silver-rated driver, so see how he stacks up. If he can keep it tight, Eric Filgaris can move this car up the order a little bit when we get to the second phase of the race.
We do know Eric is quick in a GT3 car. We saw that yesterday, but we never saw him have to pass anybody. It's going to be a different story for him here today, unless McAleer has an incredible drive up through this pack.
This is a feisty little battle. It has stayed clean so far, but you know Jan Halen is never afraid to get his elbows out and be forceful here. Battle in Pro-Am, so this is for 6th and 7th overall, but for 5th position in Pro-Am. 12 Pro-Am cars in this field, led by this man, Colin Brown, aboard the CrowdStrike Racing entry. Nearly 3-second gap now at the front.
Set the running order in the respective classes. Top 4 overall, those are all Pro-Am class cars, led by Colin Brown. This is the man who will be hopping in during the pit window, which is right around the halfway mark of the race. George Kurtz will be climbing aboard this number 04 Mercedes. Then in second, Daniel Morad for TR3 Racing. In another Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo, John Edwards runs in third. It's your top 3. Fourth car is also from the Pro-Am ranks, Elliott Skier. Then you get to the leader in the Pro class, Mario Farnbacher, running 5th overall. Second in the Pro class is Trenton Estep. That's why that battle with Oberlin is so fierce. That is for 2nd and 3rd, and McAleer lurking just off the class podium right now, but that's all happening in 8th, 9th, and 10th overall.
Daniel Morad just seems so at home in one of these Mercedes. One of these young drivers, he's in his early 30s, but had a really good junior single seater. Oh, a little touch there between Halen and Pumpelly right at the apex. As I said, I wondered how long the patience would remain with Jan Halen, the Belgian, putting the pressure on the American driver Spencer Pumpelly here.
Originally from Virginia, now lives in the Atlanta, Georgia area. Spencer Pumpelly, no stranger to these types of fights at the front of a GT3 field. And now just doing what he needs to do to keep Jan Halen in the rear-facing camera in lieu of a rear-view mirror in these modern-day GT3 cars.
Looking there at John Edwards, our pole sitter, sitting there in P3 right now. Looks like Mercedes got a little bit more race pace. There you can see his teammate Samantha Tan will take over the reins of this car. Just got nominated as a BMW ambassador this past week, so big news in that camp for her.
His team, ST Racing, with big plans to race overseas. They ran at Spa last year in the 24 hours. Plan to contest the entire Endurance Cup in the 2023 season, but with Ferrari instead of with BMW, as they've been so associated for so long.
Top 3 cars, fastest laps, are in a different second bracket to the rest of this field, so they have the edge in pace here with the 2 Mercedes leading the BMW. I think a lot of that is because these guys are fighting it out so hard.
Oh my goodness, what a great scrap. The youngster Trenton Estep was all up under the rear wing of Jan Halen, and he needed to be because he's got Bill Oberlin breathing down his neck. Colin Brown continues to lead overall at Sonoma Raceway, race 2 of the weekend.
Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, is brought to you by CrowdStrike, AWS, and Fanatec.
At the front of this field, Colin Brown grabbed the lead away on the opening lap, and he has not looked backwards once since taking the lead. He now leads by 3.6 seconds over Daniel Moran. John Edwards is third. The top three all Pro-Am class cars, which we thought was possible. One thing to keep in mind, unlike other championships, this Pro class, you are required to carry one silver-rated driver in your lineup. And their thought was that we could see a lot of mixed up grids between Pro and Pro-Am on both days. It's normal on the second day, but on both days, I think that could be a possibility for the duration of the season.
Very much so. You saw Daniel Morad there, a little slip getting into the chicane, handled it quite nicely, just got in a little bit deep there, probably activated the ABS a little bit. That washes the front end out, it's taken away braking ability so it doesn't lock those front tires. So he's pushing, but this is a great battle here in the backdrop here. Behind this red Acura, these three Porsches led by Pompelli, then Halen.
You're right, Pompelli leading this bunch. He is fifth in Pro-Am, Halen sixth. And right behind, that's where you find Estep in the MDK Porsche, but it's a Pro class car. The battle that he is waging is with Bill Auberlin and Stephen McAleer out back. They run 8th, 9th, and 10th overall, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the Pro class.
There is McAleer. He got pretty forceful there in the opening lap, gained a couple of spots. He's got Brian Sellers in the DXDT machine right behind him. He shares that car with Scott Smithson. Looking for big things this year. And you got Ross Gunn on debut here at Sonoma Raceway aboard the TIG Aston Martin Vantage AMR GT3.
Was worth the price of admission yesterday.
Yeah.
It seemed like every time we had a camera on him, he was fighting someone tooth and nail.
Yeah, unfortunately he had a flight delay out of the UK this week, so he didn't get in for the test day, so he's been on the back foot and trying to learn this racetrack, which is not an easy one to learn. It's a low grip circuit in terms of the surface, and a lot of elevation change makes it a tricky one to get your hands around.
The tail end of this train, we just got a look a moment ago at the Ferrari 296 GT3, brand new GT3 offering from Maranello, although built by Orica in France, which, as you said yesterday, will take some getting used to saying. But that's running in the hands of Ryan Dial, 14th overall, putting some pressure, though, on Corey Lewis for DXDT Racing. Looking to make some progress here early on in the going. Not even 15 minutes into this, but the lead for Colin Brown has ballooned. It's 4.4 seconds now over Daniel Morad. Colin Brown in control with an hour and 16 minutes to go in race 2 of the weekend, and indeed of the 2023 Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS season. CrowdStrike Racing by Riley Motorsports, the team. Colin and George Kurtz made the switch to this team ahead of the season last year, and instantly something seemed to click.
It really did. I mean, they had a strong season, 3 wins on the year, but finished 4th in the points. That's how competitive it was. But you know they want a lot more than that this year. Finished runner-up yesterday, and they look to have the dominant car here today. I mean, George Kurtz has been driving impeccably. He's done very well in GT America competition here this weekend. They had a doubleheader as well, a couple of podium runs there.
Looking on board with Stephen McAleer, who piloted this car home to the overall win yesterday. Today he finds himself stuck back in 10th. This car started 12th, so he's made up a couple of spots, but has since stalled out and has not yet been able to solve the riddle that is Bill Auberlin.
Yeah, and Bill is going to be tough to pass. I mean, he just hates to be beaten in anything, so he's going to try and hang on to this position as hard as he can, and it is a battle, as you said, for Pro class honors. Currently run 3rd and 4th, so Auberlin in another podium position. They had 8 of those last year, he and Chandler Hull.
In our Fanatec track preview, we were riding on board with Stephen McAleer. It was a much different view out the windscreen, and it's a different experience behind the wheel of a GT3 car when you're out by yourself or chasing someone down, as is the case here.
Well, you have all of these elevation changes. You have sort of like blind crest of these corners. You come up here through turn 3 and right where Oberlin is turning to McAleer, right there, the road, you can't see the edge of the road. And when you're right up the tail of another car as well, it makes it really hard to judge. Just have to get into a rhythm and be very, very precise in where you're placing the car on the edge of the road.
Taking a look at Corey Lewis, Burton Lumber, the sponsorship, company of his co-driver, Jeff Burton, will be taking over during the pit stop window. DXDT Racing is the team. They've been stalwarts in this championship for a number of years, down to 2 cars. They've run 3 in recent seasons, and team owner David Askew electing to step out of the cockpit this year and focus on running the team instead.
He has a great team. Engineer Stefan Pfeiffer I have a lot of respect for. He's just one of those guys who just has a great personality,
yes,
keeps it light, but at the same time they're very serious about the setups on these race cars. With Corey Lewis and Brian Sellers as the 2 pros in that those combinations. A lot of experience in that camp.
Spencer Pompelli, over the last few laps, has run down Mario Farnbacher. He was quicker by half a second on the last lap, and he's bringing Jan Halen and Trenton Estep and Bill Oberlin with him. It's going to be a party there in just a moment. Co-driver to Mario Farnbacher, Ashton Harrison, watching on. She awaits her chance to drive this Racer's Edge Acura.
Okay, Mario leading in pro. So they got their eyes on Lucas and Oberlin behind them and McAleer in terms of any change of position. So Mario's in a nice spot right now. He's found a little window within the traffic, and the lineup here to just keep doing what he's doing. No threat from behind at the moment overall, and no threat from any other pro car.
It's probably not the easiest thing to do to keep your focus on that. As a racing driver, you're going to race those around you, but for Mario, you got to remember, even though you're supposedly in the top class, the fact that you're running 5th is really not an issue. You're still leading in your category, and this is a pro class, not an overall class. So finishing 5th overall, but ahead of all the other pro cars, you still get first place points.
Yeah, Mario's got the experience. He's an HPD factory driver. Been with them a number of years, has won numerous championships over the last 5 years or so in this type of machinery. So he's the go-to guy. And in Ashton Harrison, he's got a brilliant young teammate who's really learning her craft very, very quickly.
Let's go down to the pit lane and check in with Amanda.
Well, you guys discussed that the Ferrari 296 is making its SRO Global debut here in Sonoma, and there's been a few BOP adjustments to this car throughout the weekend. The first one was on the ride height. You'll see Ryan Dial behind the car of that Ferrari right now, but I was talking to one of the Conquest racing guys, Manny Franco, and he said that the ride height adjustment at Sonoma didn't really give them any benefit. Actually felt that the car was kind of hydroplaning headed into turn 1. So then there was a power adjustment after qualifying, and after the race yesterday, they gave an additional power adjustment here to kick off the race today. I looked at Manny and gave a thumbs up, thumbs down. He shook his hand and said so-so. So that might be the assessment on BOP, but I do want to point out, I talked about the 7 different manufacturers on track. We saw 4 of those in the top 5. They qualified within 0.8 of a second of each other ahead of this race today. So that's a pretty nod to the BOP.
Oh, big problems here for Corey Lewis. Lots of smoke out of that DXDT Racing Mercedes.
Had an issue yesterday with Jeff Burton behind the wheel. This is engine related. I'm not sure if it's tire rub initially, but I think it's drivetrain related possibly.
It's a real shame. It's been a difficult start to the 2023 campaign for Jeff. He was racing in GT America, the single driver race format at St. Petersburg, had a heavy crash and was not really able to do a whole lot that particular weekend, and yesterday was not smooth sailing either. We'll have to get that group regrouped ahead of the next event.
Colin Brown just absolutely flying here, continuing to extend that lead, now up over 5 seconds And for he and this CrowdStrike Racing with Riley team, they really want to have a nice green flag run. They want to be able to continue to build this gap, turn it over to George Kurtz, who's got a bigger margin to work with, take the pressure off him a little bit, see if they can score their first victory of the season.
5.2 seconds is the lead for Colin over Daniel Morad, and those are the only two drivers that are lapping in the 139s right now. Everyone else in the mid-140s or slower. So very clearly the top two cars, the fastest two cars, at least at this stage of the race, are the front-running Mercedes from Riley and TR3 respectively.
Yeah, because this racetrack is so low grip, you're continuously sliding the tire across the surface. That tends to degrade its performance a little bit, particularly over the long 40 to 50 minute run that you're going to have here. As now we see the Burton lumber machine in here. You can see there's some kind of oil leak there, power steering, possibly fluid pouring out, and then we see the remnants coming out of the tail diffuser there.
Could that be residual from his off yesterday?
Possibly. You know, when you have a big knock like that, it can sometimes loosen a fit, and the crew would have gone over it with a fine detail last night, but sometimes something can be missed or something is fractured that you can't see.
There's been no let up here, has there? I believe it's Trenton Estep in this MDK car, and he is wearing out the veteran Jan Halen. Oh, he feinted to the outside, then tried to come back in, but Jan was having none of that. Now he's going to try the old chrome horn and see if that works. And you know what? I don't think Jan's going to like that very much.
I don't think Estep knows who he's dealing with.
No.
But Spencer's on the move. In front of these two Porsches, Spencer Pompelli aboard the number 16 ACI Motorsports machine. He is now caught Faulbacher.
Colin Brown continues to lead, but the battle rages in the pro class deeper in the field. Sonoma Raceway putting on a show.
Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, is brought to you by Acura, BMW M, and Ferrari.
It's a little deeper into the top 10, but it is a fierce fight, and it's all happening behind Mario Farnbacher. But Cal, you called it. Spencer Pompelli has had his head down, and he's taking another run at Mario. 2 or 3 laps ago, it looked like he was closing in. Gave it a try, backed it off a little bit, and now he is back as the aggressor in this duo.
Yeah, and he was absolutely flying in the second phase of the race here yesterday, so I anticipated this happening again today. And again, these teams are learning. They'll tweak on the cars overnight. They're also going to work on the balance. You know, was I good at the beginning and faded a little bit? Was I stronger at the end? Can we be more aggressive with the setup for the first phase of the race? But right now his car seems to be super consistent. He takes that inside move there. That is late, too late.
And around goes Farnbacher out of the lead in the pro class. He's going to cost him at least 2, probably 3 positions in class. The good news is he's able to carry on. The question is, was that car wounded at all? I did see some body work fly off, but I think that might have come off of Pompelli. It might have been the dive plane.
Yeah, it was a bit of a late move there by Spencer. I mean, Mario leaves the door half cracked, and I don't think he anticipated Spencer going for it. And Mario just arcs in on his normal line, and Spencer had filled that gap. So you'd have to feel that Mario should have been aware there a little bit, but Spencer was certainly a little bit aggressive as well.
I do think it was the dive plane from the left front of Spencer Pompelli's car that was broken off. How will he feel that?
The dive plane on Spencer? Oh yeah, that will affect his braking. That will affect the front end grip coming through some of these high speed corners. So basically those little dive planes probably produce about 100 pounds of downforce, like putting a 100-pound weight on that front corner to push it down into the racing surface. So that'll certainly have an effect.
It's definitely missing there on the left-hand side, and the incident is under review according to race control, as you would expect. Let's check and see, where did Farnbacher drop to? Wow, all the way out to 11th. He lost 3 positions in class just like that, and suddenly into the pro class lead is Trenton Estep.
It's going to be fascinating to see when he turns over the reins of that car to young Seth Lucas, and you got someone like Chandler Hull who's got a little bit more experience than Seth in this form of machinery. That's what's great about this lineup today, when we have the secondary drivers jumping in to see how they perform in these conditions.
I was going to say the same thing, because in the past, the pro class has been open to drivers of any category. This got changed last year, but I think especially this year we see some silver drivers that lack some of the experience of their pro counterparts. Should be a lot of fun to watch and see how that plays out throughout the race. There's Colin Brown continuing to show the way. The lead has stabilized at about 6 seconds, just a shade under at last check over this car, Daniel Morad, TR3 Racing, and we have to wait until this car to find second or make that third place. This is John Edwards, the pole sitter, who lost the lead at the start. Looks like he might have a chance to fight back, Cal, but since then he has settled in and is running a solid, if distant, third place.
Yeah, and I think it would have been a tall order looking at the pace of those Mercedes there for John to hang on for much longer anyway, but certainly he'll just try and settle in. I mean, once he realizes he's not in the fight for the lead right now, he's just got to settle in and manage those tires and try and be as strong as he can towards the end. Here's another look at Spencer's move down to the inside. He'd been making the same line, but he's just in there pretty aggressively, pretty committed. Mario seemed unaware that he had placed his car right there, so I'd say 70% lean on Spencer in terms of the incident responsibility, a little bit on Mario's shoulders as well.
Incident is under review, as you can see from race control. That spun Mario out of the pro class lead. He now runs 4th in class, 11th overall. Trenton Ested, Bill Oberlin, Stephen McAleer, your top 3 in pro.
Good battle right behind this right here is Ryan Dial and Alessandro Balzan, the 2 Ferraris going side by side into the brake zone there for turn 11.
A Ferrari challenge race breaking out right there in the fight for 13th and 14th overall, and it does look like Balzan got the better of Ryan on that last lap. Again, not for class position. It does put him up, though, that much closer to the rest of the pro field, which is led by this young man, Trenton Estep, who has some history with Mark Kwame, who owns this MDK Motorsports team. He's run with Mark in previous years, and Mark has put a lot of faith in Trenton to lead this program, quite frankly. He's young. He doesn't have a ton of track time racing GT3 cars relative to many of the other pros in this field, but Seth Lucas has even less. He had done practically nothing prior to this weekend, barring the Indy 8-hour last year. Back down to Amanda.
Talk about Seth Lucas and the young pairing between this team. He's just 17 years young. I was talking to him ahead of this weekend, and I just asked, how do you describe Sonoma Raceway? And he said, well, all I could say is I'm just hoping around this track, hoping that I stay on track in the blind corners. And I talked to him also about the welcome to GT3 Racing. He said that he was really surprised with how nice the drivers have been and how welcoming they have been. But I don't know that the 17-year knows that there's going to be a bullseye on the back of this Pro-Am car if they stay there.
Thanks, Amanda. And you saw it in that shot. Drive-through penalty has been issued by race control to Spencer Pumpelly. So he will give up a spot towards the front of the Pro-Am ranks to pass through the pits. It's 50 seconds in to out through this lengthy pit lane at Sonoma.
Yeah, and I think Spencer's going to feel a little bit hard done by that, but ultimately he did turn Mario around. He was going to make the corner, so you could say from Spencer's perspective, I didn't overdrive the corner. I was able to hit the apex. Seemed like Mario had kind of overslowed the entry to try and take that late cut and just didn't anticipate Spencer being so close. So again, I think there's a little bit of responsibility on Mario as well, but ultimately he was the driver who got turned around and Spencer was responsible for it. So he's got to live to fight back here.
The sights of sports car racing are great, but the sounds are even better. Just sit back and listen in. Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo, 6.2 liters of V8, naturally aspirated. Beautiful sound.
It really was, and I tell you what was such an impression as well as you come up the hill there in turn one, how low they run these race cars. You're literally beating the bottom of the car on the skid blocks there as you climb the hill there to try and settle the car back down again. Just remarkable noises there.
Battle simmering, and it might now be
This is for the lead.
Oberlin to the inside of Estep for the lead in class. This is for the pro class honors, and right there up the tailpipe, yeah, that's Stephen McAleer, the overall winner from yesterday. We're on board.
Yeah, I wonder if Estep had a little slip there, because Oberlin certainly wasn't as close there on the previous lap, so suddenly that was game on for the lead in pro. Now Sellers has gone for a ride.
Not sure what led to that, but he should be able to continue on. Brian was running 9th overall and just outside of the top 5 in Pro-Am at that time.
He's trying to make a move on McAleer. It looked
Yeah.
like he may have just got pinched a bit. They caught it late in terms of what caused him to suddenly, not sure if he had a run on him and suddenly just got squeezed right at apex. Mario was behind him, but I don't think Mario was in the picture to turn him.
Right. Mario has caught up to the rest of this group, and he's got company in the form of Alessandro Balzan right behind. Really excited to see Manny Franco, who co-drives with Alessandro when he gets his chance. Really fast driver, short on experience, but man, he has been a quick study.
Yeah, he's certainly been sensational in terms of the times that we've seen him, which hasn't been a lot, but he's also campaigning in Ferrari Challenges where he cut his teeth. Their opening rounds of the championship earlier this season, so he's been getting some seat time, but he too, just like the whole group in general, including Alessandro Balzan, the pro lead driver here, do not have a lot of time with this new 296 V6 engine, 3-liter. A lot different configuration to what we're seeing in years past with Ferrari.
And right behind him is a very hungry Ross Gunn, driving for TRG, the Racers Group hometown team in nearby Petaluma. Ross is a busy guy as a factory driver. You would expect that, but he's got a British GT program planned for Beach Dean AMR alongside Andrew Howard this year. He's done some running in other endurance racing stateside too. I didn't see him for the full GT World Challenge America season this year, but he's worth the price of admission when he is in the house. Colin Brown continues to lead, but the battles behind him are fierce. McAleer, Farnbacher, Porsche, and Acura, with right behind them Ferrari ace Alessandro Balzan. I'll tell you what, you'd be hard-pressed to find 18 better pro drivers than the ones you find in this field.
It's certainly stacked, and right there you're looking at the Porsche that's just cutting into the corner there. Those are the 5 pro cars in this field running line astern, led by the youngster Trenton Estep. So he must have had a little bobble there for Oberlin to be so close to him when we last saw these guys in action.
Yep.
Because he's scampered away once again. This race has settled back down. Oberlin and Chandler Hull scored a victory at the Indy finale last year. That was their only win on the year, but had 8 podiums alongside that. Super consistent. They ran in Pro-Am last year. They've moved up to the pro class with Chandler being now designated a silver driver versus a bronze. Just to give you the pecking order, at the bottom of the tree is bronze, then silver, then gold, and then platinum. John Edwards, for example, being a BMW factory driver in the 3rd place, ST Racing BMW as a BMW factory pilot. Here's that platinum grading.
Years he's been plugged into the factory cars for BMW, getting farmed out to the customer ST Racing team, something a bit different for him. New championship as well for John, who joined GT World Challenge America for the Indy 8-hour last year, but a full season campaign alongside Samantha Tan in that beautiful BMW, which now has company. Here comes Elliott Skier, here comes Jan Halen.
Yeah, and certainly a little contretemps there with Farnbacher and Spencer Pampelli has allowed Jan Halen to make some ground up here and catching up to the sister car for Wright Motorsports right in front of him. The 120 and the 45 are both run by Wright Motorsports.
Different generations of car, though. It's the older 991 variant that leads the newer 992 car. So Skier in the old car, Halen in the new car, just under 5 minutes away, by the way, from the pit window opening.
Yeah, we do anticipate the normal gauge is to keep the pros in as long as possible, but there's a little new wrinkle to the rules here. Oh, that was tight there. Jan Halen likes to stick that nose down at the inside of turn 2. Sometimes you're going to get it chopped. If you do like to stay out there, you are in what we call the danger zone. If there's a yellow during the pit stop window, it can have an effect on your strategy. So I think that may have got everyone's attention with the rule book for this year and may affect the strategy of how they elect to pit these cars.
Sure that Elliott would have been so lucky there if he hadn't been Jan's teammate, but he gets away with it, and he sets off again in pursuit of John Edwards. Edwards, Skier, Halen, that's how they run out of the carousel, now down the drag strip into turn number 7. BMW leading 2 different generations of Porsche as we close in on the pit window in race 2 of the weekend at Sonoma.
I haven't chatted to the drivers about it, but I'd have to imagine that Jan Halen knows Elliott Skier quite well, because Jan Halen is a dear friend of Pat Long, and Pat Long was mentoring Elliott Skier when he first burst onto the scene about 8 and 10 years ago. Oh, a little sideways there. You see Skier there, over-rotates the car on entry.
2015, Elliott was the North American champion of single-make Porsche racing. It wasn't a Carrera Cup at the time. Looked like that was going to be his chance to burst onto the scene. Oh, man, here comes Jan Halen. Let's see how nice he's willing to play with his teammate. Not in the same... Oh, yes, they are in the same class battle. My apologies. So, yep, he's got plenty of reason to want to get by. Very curious how the team would want to play this one.
About 5 Pro-Am cars leading overall, the first 5 position, then 5 Pro cars. Jan Halen, he is getting so close to touching someone there, and it's going to be an immediate spin for that car in front. He's got to be careful.
Oh, can you imagine? A spin for one, presumably a penalty for the other. That would be disastrous for this Wright Motorsports team. But luckily, they've been able to avoid that to this point. Oberlin and McAleer continuing to duel, and this is setting up then to become a battle between Chandler Hull and Eric Filgaris, 2 of the up-and-coming young American road racers. That would be fascinating.
Yeah, and Seth Lucas in front of him, those guys as well. So this is what I'm going to love about the second phase of this race, to see how a Seth Lucas, a Chandler Hull, and Eric Filgaris, a Manny Franco, Ashton Harrison, how they stack up when the chips are on the line for a win here today.
Some board shots, you can see those little micro corrections. You're always chasing the balance, especially through a corner like the carousel.
McAleer just got so much experience now. Did a ton of GT3 racing last year in a different championship here in North America aboard a Mercedes. Nearly clinched that title. But he and this group, they have chemistry. Went on a roll last year, clinching the GT4 America Championship with 11 wins. He and Eric Filgaris dominated that championship.
Well, the question was if that chemistry would carry over into GT3 out of GT4. The answer so far has been a resounding yes. Winning overall yesterday. Very much in contention to fight for a Pro Class win, if not an overall win here today. Not quite as close this time up the hill to make that lunge, that look up the inside.
You see that line that he does as he climbs the hill, he's all the way left over that white line and then just kind of straight lines into turn 2 there. So be curious to see him running by himself if that's his preferred line and how he's figured out that's the fast way around the racetrack. But when you're in traffic, it just suddenly has you screaming up on the tail end of the car in front of you and so close to contact right at that pivotal point.
Driving what he described as the best handling car he has ever driven at Sonoma. This new version of the 911 GT3R, that's the 45. A car he shares with his son-in-law, Charlie Luck. Yes, you're right. Apologies.
Yeah, it's not that old. He's young.
This is why we have you, Cal.
Age sensitive these days. John Edwards here. Looks like he's settling down, just trying to manage the car here, get through potentially the next 10 minutes. pit window will be opening right now, so these guys could literally just dive right there, and that's what happens. Watching the clock, Elliott Skier into pit lane. John Wright makes the call. Adam Adelson will be jumping on board. So that pit window is open. It doesn't have to be the leader to take the first grab of that. It's anyone in this train. It's all down to the timing and the clock and where you are relative to pit lane.
So that does two things for them. One, it covers you from a strategic perspective, but two, it shows a lot of confidence in Adam Adelson in just his second weekend of GT3 racing, first under the SRO umbrella. Similar story here across the board. Seth Lucas is getting a big vote of confidence from MDK as they come to the pits.
Also protects you if it should go yellow as well with these new regulations. So it looks like Balzan's car's come alive a little bit as the number 120 Wright Motorsports machine hits pit lane. Great job once again by Elliott Skier. Superb performance here this weekend on top of the win here yesterday. Here is Balzan in that battle for what is now the lead in pro with the two lead cars of Estep and Oberlin hitting pit lane early.
The pace early in this race for Balzan was not anything terribly noteworthy, but he has come on strong as the race has gone on, and he has run down this RS1 Porsche. Right now, it looks like he does have a run. Taking a look to the inside, these two are both in the pro class. McAleer gives him a wide berth.
Balzan has always raced super clean. He's just feeling him out in terms of just recognizing, does McAleer want to keep aggression going here? Doesn't want to risk damage to that Ferrari. It seems to be coming alive a little bit, so the team are continuously working on it. Amanda alluded to a couple of balance of performance changes when you have a new car coming into a championship. The technical board really like to just get a good read on how it stacks up with the competition. They allowed the car to be a little bit closer to the ground. Typically that gives you performance and also a bit more power as McAleer hits pit lane.
RS1 makes the call next. Conquest keeps Balzan out. Racer's Edge keeps Farnbacher out. Ross Gunn stays on track for TRG. Only one of those that surprises me a little bit might be Racer's Edge. Stuck in traffic a little bit here. Ashton's pretty quick. And John Baraki, probably shouldn't second guess John. They've won championships, what, 3 of the last 4 years in GT World Challenge America.
Yeah, been an amazing run. Back to 2019 with Carl Marsili, Martin Barkey, and then Hinman and Blackstock the following year, and then last year with the duo that are running here this weekend, Mario Farnbacher and Ashton Harrison. And they were on the fence. We spoke to John this morning walking into the racetrack, and he said, I'm not sure what we're going to do strategy-wise. He said, there is a concern that you're rolling the dice a bit by staying out, but again, Mario, with his experience and time behind the wheel, should have a little edge in speed over Ashton, so they're trying to maximize that potential.
RS1 pit stop underway. Little trouble getting the left rear seated properly. It's an 87-second delta, pit in to pit out, including service. It's a team that is new to these full tire changes on the GT3 car, having run in Pirelli GT4 America in the past.
You should have plenty of time with the time that's allotted here, but you can see they need to just tidy things up a little bit. No major drama, but it didn't look as clean as it could be.
Now, the car was released right after it was dropped off the jacks, and that typically means that it has been a little slower. Basically, that minimum, to hit it properly, you have to have a bang-on pit stop. And that means you're sitting, perhaps waiting just a second or two, then release to go. So if you see the car sitting there for a while, that's typically a good sign. The fact that we did not means, at best, it was marginal, very, very close.
The battle right now for third in Pro-Am. Joan Edwards has it in that light blue and multicolored BMW. Jan Halen wants it before he makes his pit stop and hands it over to his father-in-law.
They'll need to be in this time. You just need... No, I'm sorry. They do still have another 5 minutes. Getting my championships confused.
Jan Halen sets him up, tucks it to the inside, and he's going to force the issue there. That's the difference between Balzan and Jan Halen.
Oh, yeah.
There's no second asking for Jan. He's going to take it.
Yep, he is forceful, and everyone around him knows it. And to treat him accordingly. Tell you what, though, it's worked for him.
You do. I mean, it's a bit like you think about Dale Earnhardt Jr., you think about Ayrton Senna, the bright yellow helmet. If he's coming down the inside, he's like, you know what, he's coming through one way or another. How hard do I want to try and hang on to this?
This is a car that hit strife early in the going. Tom Dyer had that spin on the opening lap and even trying to recover, haven't caught a yellow or anything like that, so it's been tough sailing. James Safronis, the veteran, now in that car. And here come the Riley guys.
Kind of splitting the difference on this one, halfway through the pit stop window, not rolling the dice too much, but getting an extra 5 minutes of drive time for Colin. George Kurtz has been really quick here this weekend. I think he's going to be able to handle this situation well. They should, once everyone cycles through, maintain that lead with the gap that Colin had established at the front of this field. So then pitting, the lead now goes to Daniel Morad aboard the TR3 Racing Mercedes.
No one to maximize Daniel. I think it's still safe to say that Ziad Gondor, his co-driver, is coming to grips with the Mercedes in his first year racing it.
To your point, a little delay there in the off, and that's because they had time to spare, so everything was done very efficiently there. George now, tires out of the ovens, out of the blankets, have some temperature, they're not at total operating temperature. We're going to have the maximum grip. You can see there that they're staying on the lead lap. This is our new leader right now, Daniel Morad. George Kurtz is up and away. Tail end of the lead lap, but Morad is yet to pit.
Talked about Daniel a little bit yesterday, but looked like he was bound for IndyCar stardom. Won the Formula BMW USA Championship back in 2007. Went on to win single-make Porsche Championship in Canada in 2016 after making the switch to sports car racing, and has won some big races in his career, but hasn't had a consistent opportunity to fight for big race wins, and that might be changing.
Ironically, he won the Rolex 24 with Spencer Pumpelly as his strategist.
That's right, he did.
For Allegra Motorsports.
There's another pit call. Conquest calling in Alessandro Balzan. Farnbacher stays out. Ross Gunn comes in.
Left to hit pit lane, so this will be the final lap of this stint for Farnbacher.
That's right.
So they're rolling the dice, trying to gain back some of that edge that they had the lead, got tipped around by Spencer. He got the penalty for it, and so they've been on the back foot, but Mario's got his head down. With his lap times, I don't think the car was too affected by that knock.
I think you're right. He's running right there about the same pace as those around him. Now it becomes one more lap for Mario, and then it's time for Ashton to jump aboard.
Here we go. Morad should be hitting pit lane.
Well,
stays out. Okay, he's really cutting it close.
He can make it.
Yeah, I think Mario would be too tight, but
he's got about 20 seconds to play with.
Yeah, problem is, quick spin or anything, you are
in deep
really,
trouble.
really rolling the dice here, but they're trying to maximize every ounce of speed potential there.
On go the fresh Pirelli P0s.
I'm thinking that I guess Mario could squeak another one in as well.
The key is you just have to be in the pit lane before the window closes. It's not like you have to have your service done. And it looks like Wright is just on the outside of that window, so they do call Jan Heylen in. I think ideally they would have sent him out if they could one more time.
Yeah, so Mario's got to come here. He doesn't have time to do one more lap in the end.
Yep. There's the call. Super Mario into the pits, down to the pit speed limiter, and that long crawl to his pit box.
50 kilometers an hour without any services costing you about 40 seconds compared to the field out there on the racetrack. You got to do the surface as well. So Adelson back out there behind the wheel. This team looking for their second win of the weekend in the Pro-Am class. Charlie Luck jumping on board.
Fuel flows in the front, of course, of this rear-engine Porsche.
Makes it a little bit easier for the driver change, but it also makes it a little bit more difficult for that front left tire as well. So here comes Morad, our leader.
In with 19 seconds to spare. Here's Racer's Edge now, making their change in the choreographed ballet that is a 4-tire change. Just one man with a gun, one to change the wheels, plus fuel, and someone to help with the driver. Could be the driver getting out, it could be a crew member.
Okay, this is going to be between the two Porsches, two Wright Motorsports Porsches there. 120 is going to stay ahead, and Adelson's going to be in a rhythm as well. He's going to have more tire temp and pressure than Charlie Luck has, even though his tires are fresh out of the ovens.
And remember, that was a battle on the track before this pit window opened, and Wright split their strategies. They kept Adelson, or put Adelson out there quickly, and he was fast on fresh tires and was able to build a gap there. Looks like Franco is...
Well, the racer's edge car is ahead of the McAleer car right now. So that's a switch of positions by their strategy, keeping Mario out there a little bit longer. That turned out to be an advantage. They rolled the dice, had a bit of risk with that play, but it's turned out to gain of track position.
Second guess John Maraki at my own peril, and that's what happens. Off the jacks.
They won 3 championships in 4 years.
That's right. Looked like a pretty clean stop from TR3. He is released. That will be Ziad Gondor, and we'll see where he shakes out. That's looking pretty good right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, again, it's the overcut. You just keep Daniel Morad out there running very fast lap times, and his comparison with George Kurtz on relatively cold tires, but now Kurtz is going to be in a rhythm. I would say it will take a lap at the most for Kurtz to maybe run down Ziad Gondor here and maybe be battling for that position once again.
Gondor cycles to the lead ahead of this car, which had controlled the race to that point, but George Kurtz is starting to charge. Keep an eye on that battle at the front of this field, but for the moment it is TR3 Racing leading Riley Motorsports at the front of the field in race 2 of the 2023 Fanatec GT World Challenge season.
Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, is brought to you by Pirelli, eBoost Super Fuel, and Rova Motor Oil.
Overall leader, Ziad Gondor. First time this weekend for Ziad racing in the Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo. New for the team as well. And he and his co-driver Daniel Morad, they did not know each other until this deal got put together. But so far, pretty fruitful. They were quick yesterday, certainly Morad in the second stint, and starting things off very well today. Now George Kurtz has a sight set on Gondor. He knows that's what he's got to do to get the lead back.
Yeah, and his car should be more up to temp and have the pace immediately, so that outlap was really good for Ziad. I thought he'd struggle a bit more than was demonstrated there, so I expected this gap to come down in a hurry, but Ziad's been up on the wheel here this weekend. You see it's a lot smaller than when they initially left pit lane, but even so, good outlap by Ziad Gondor.
Totally agree. 4 seconds at the line, the difference between Gondor and Kurtz. Behind them, you'll find Adam Adelson for Wright Motorsports. And Charlie Luck runs 4th. Samantha Tan 5th. So the top 5 overall all belong to the Pro-Am class. Seth Lucas leads in Pro for MDK. Manny Franco and Conquest, they did a great job using Balzan running deep into that stint. They'd overcut work for them too. They're up there into the 2nd spot in Pro. They were at the back of the Pro field for a lot of the day. Harrison now runs 3rd in that class despite the spin for Farnbacher earlier in the race.
Big loser in that shuffle is the number 94 Bimmerworld BMW. They've dropped way out of the action. They're down to 12th overall, 5th in Pro, so he must have had a little bit of a trip up there, either on the pit stop or Chandler's outlap.
On board
fighting for a podium, if not more. Oblin nearly grabbed the lead from Eston there.
Exactly right, and now 2 out-of-class cars separating Chandler from the rest of his class. On board with Samantha Tan, who's putting pressure on Charlie Luck. Oh, she's got her hands full, but she's got a quick race car. This is the pole-sitting BMW.
Put pressure on that rear balance of that Porsche there.
Through the S's. Samantha Tan chasing Charlie Luck, looking to the inside, down to the outside. Battle raging into turn 9. Samantha Tan absolutely wearing out the back of Charlie Luck in this, the battle for the 4th spot overall and in Pro-Am.
Charlie had to absolutely park it in the turn 9 chicane there to thwart the attempt by Samantha to try and get around this Wright Motorsports Porsche.
She had a couple chances at him on the last lap, one into turn 7, one into the braking zone for 9. Charlie takes a wider approach to turn 1, but Samantha wasn't close enough to take advantage of it.
Charlie's just not quite into his rhythm yet. He's not rolling the apex speed that he will eventually get to, and that's creating a little bit of a headache here for Samantha to know what to do with it.
It's great to see from Samantha. We've seen over the course of her development, she's gotten to a place where she can consistently run fast laps, but now showing she's got some muscle, some racecraft to go with it.
Yeah, she's under the tutelage of Nick Johnson, who's in their camp week in, week out, just working with her on her fitness and everything to get her up to speed.
Well, Daniel Morad's opening stint had a lot to do with the fact that TR3 is currently out in front overall. Let's hear from the Canadian now with Amanda.
Just before he got over for our interview, big smiles on Daniel Morad just from a stint. Didn't know that the car was in the lead until his team manager Greg told him. But Daniel, you came into that pit window with 19 seconds left on it. You guys hit that pit stop perfectly. Your team was celebrating. Why are wins sometimes decided on that driver change?
I mean, racing is always regarded as a single-person sport, but I mean, this is a perfect example of it being a team sport. If it's not for the pit stop doing their job, then we're not going to lead the race. And to be honest, I didn't know. I don't have that information. They just tell me push, 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 and that's all I do. I know one thing and just go fast. And they made this strategy, but I mean, our engineer loaded up the hyperdock today and made a few magic clicks. And I mean, just an absolute pogger stint.
Gonna need that translated from Canadian, I think. It sounded good though, and he's a happy
sure
guy.
about the exchange rate.
That's right. Oh, what a great stint though from Daniel, and it's a great little team. TR3 Racing, based in Davie, Florida. 3 brothers. In fact, if you're wondering what the name stands for, it's the Romanelli 3. 3 brothers, all with the last name Romanelli, of course, that run this operation. So many years involved with Ferrari, made the switch to Lamborghini last year, now with the Mercedes. This is, let's see, Scott Smithson coming under pressure from Derek DeBoer and succumbing to it.
Yeah, just got there in there a little bit deep. Typically that's when you get into that ABS and it just takes away your braking ability there, run straight through the chicane. Tires are dirty, nothing you can do, and Derek made a nice clean move around him.
Well, we've been waiting to see, could George Kurtz make the inroads that he needs on Ziad Gondor, and it looks like he is, slowly but surely. It was 2.5 seconds the last time by. We'll check the gap at the stripe this time. Oh yeah, he just found another second.
Yeah, 1 second per lap, those last 2 laps, so he's cut that gap from 3.5 down to 1.5. Can he keep that momentum rolling here? But Ziad, we've seen in years past, he's a fierce competitor. He doesn't give it up, even if he's in a car that maybe doesn't have the same pace as the one behind him. He's not just going to roll over here. He's feisty.
It's that never say die from his off-road racing background that earned him the nickname Z-Hog back in the day. This is going to be really interesting between these two, fighting not just for Pro-Am honors, but this is for the overall win as well, at least as it stands. The top-placed pro car is still Seth Lucas, who's doing a great job for MDK. Manny Franco right behind. I think the two of them combined have, let's see, Manny has 3 GT3 starts. Seth would have, what, 2, 3 as well. So 6 combined GT3 starts, and they lead the pro class.
Yeah, it's crazy, and they're tight as well. Only a half a second separates them, but up front, this is getting really tasty. George Kurtz has hunted down Ziad Gondor. The key now is to pounce. You don't want to get into the same rhythm of the car in front of you if it is a little bit slow, if it isn't rolling the speed. So that's where the experience that George now has, is to recognize that and not get stymied, and suddenly you get into the rhythm of the car in front. Recognize where you have the advantage and take it and take quick action.
This is something that makes this race format unique. The fact that on the second day, it comes down to the AM to finish the job in a Pro-Am lineup. There are plenty of championships that are Pro-Am, plenty where the AM play a crucial role, but here on Sunday, the AM has to execute if you want to hoist a trophy.
You do, and that's what makes it fun. It allows these AMs to really feel they're playing their part. They're starting the race, which is a great dynamic, and then finishing is totally different set of pressures.
Up over the hill they go, a pair of Mercedes AMG GT3 Evos. The car of choice this year. It goes in waves, doesn't it? Last year it felt like it was a Lamborghini Invitational, but this year Mercedes with a very heavy presence in the Sonoma paddock. The top two are both Mercedes AMGs.
Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, is brought to you by Mercedes AMG, Porsche, and Toyota.
Top two nose to tail now, as they have been the last couple of laps, and they're running in the mid-142s. Could this be the chance for Kurtz? Yes, it is. Gondor saw him coming, gave him plenty of space, and George Kurtz has driven his way to P1.
Yeah, he pounced immediately, and that's what I was hoping he would do. Because sometimes you can just suddenly sit there for 4 or 5 laps, and it's like, why is the pace no longer? You're just into a different rhythm in terms of how you're applying the throttle, rolling speed through the apexes, but you'd expect George now to take off a little bit.
Keeping an eye behind who's running fast lap times. Adam Adelson was 1 second quicker than these two on the previous lap, so he is on the charge right now, but he's got a deficit to make up. The way the strategy played out, these two Mercedes teams hit the nail on the head. They have a pretty sizable advantage, in fact, over the rest of the field. We're still waiting on Adelson to come by start-finish. He does so now, but he's 21 seconds behind Gondor.
Yeah, no, it should be in the hands of one of these two drivers for the victory here, and you'd have to give the edge right now with the track position to George Kurtz and the pace that he's displayed since he's been behind the wheel. He seems like he's about a second a lap quicker than Ziad Gandor. So they were a little bit conservative with their strategy, the CrowdStrike entry, pitting Colin Brown in the middle of that 10-minute window. That allowed Daniel Moret and the TR3 team to spend 5 more minutes with their Pro-In, and that got them the lead, but ultimately it was not going to be enough.
Here is Adam Adelson. This team was on the other end of that spectrum. They came in quickly and plugged Adam in. That covered them from a potential yellow, but when no yellow came, ultimately they missed out on some fast laps, even on used tires from Elliott Skier at the end of his stint. And so he has dropped a ways off of the two leaders in third. Behind him, Charlie Luck and Samantha Tan continue their duel. And behind them, that's when we get into the pros with Seth Lucas, Manny Franco, and Ashton Harrison running nose to tail at this stage. So George Kurtz out in front, and he's built that advantage now to up over 1 second since taking the lead from Ziad Gandor just a couple of laps ago. George Kurtz leads the way. He tracked down Ziad Gandor, and he made the move. And since then, he has driven away. But Cal, this is how we got it done.
Yeah, nice clean move there. Just came through the S's with a bit more speed. And Ziad was not super protective there. I expected him to be more aggressive, but maybe he recognizes, hey, we just don't have the pace of that 0-4 car today. Let's pick up some nice points.
Kurtz and Gandor, 1-2 in Pro-Am, 1-2 overall. Adelson some 20 seconds behind, although he is running quicker than either of the top two at the moment. Then Luck, then Tan, and then you drop back to Lucas, Franco, and Harrison.
This is the battle right there behind the GMG machine with James Sofronis behind the wheel right now. Seth Lucas has the lead. There's Manny Franco right behind him. Has been nip and tuck. It was a little bit tighter between these top three, actually. There's only 6/10 separating Lucas, Franco, and Harrison 1 lap ago. That's ballooned out a little bit on that last lap. Not sure if Ashton had a little slip there trying to make a move. There you see, oh, she did.
That's more than a little moment.
I was going to say, those cars were within 6/10 of a second a lap before she just really committed on the brakes there and got away with one.
Reigning champion in the Pro-Am class is Ashton Harrison. stepping up to Pro. Top 4 cars in Pro, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th overall. And all with their silver-graded drivers in. I suppose the exception of sorts being MDK. Both of their drivers, I believe, are of the silver category. Seth Lucas leading the way in the Pro class right now, and he's got James Safronis, who is a lap down in front of him. That car had a spin earlier in the race with Tom Dyer driving. Not sure if there was contact or not. We didn't get a good look at it. But that's going to be something that Seth will need to navigate. He's got another driver who is still learning the ropes of GT3 racing right behind him, Manny Franco. Both of these guys, though, they've been quick ever since they made that step into GT3 cars.
They have. Manny Franco, they look like he picked up a ton of understeer as he accelerated off that turn 11 hairpin there. So maybe he's just got to wait a little bit, try and keep the weight on the nose a little bit longer through that corner.
Down to Amanda.
Well, you look at G-Machine, James Safronis and Tom Dyer here this weekend. I got a little note ahead of this weekend that when you look at the history of GT World Challenge racing for James Safronis, he has competed in at least 300 races. The tally that we currently have is 320 guys, but it could be more than even that.
It could be, and he loves this series. He loves this championship. When he broke into racing, it was in a what was then World Challenge race. I believe at Road America, Greek Brothers Racing, as the team was known back in those days. And I don't know if a year has gone by where Safronis, or at least his team, was not present in one way or another since this championship's inception over 30 years ago.
James will tell you his customer racing program comes first, so if there's time and it doesn't compromise anything else, he'll be out there racing. But look at this battle once again for the Pro lead. Ashton Harrison has got back on the horse here and has closed in on these leaders. Seth Lucas is feeling the heat from behind. Manny Franco right behind him. But Ashton may be the fastest of these top Pro cars right now.
Well, that gave us a chance to see just how much pace Ashton has. We saw the gap after the bobble, and she has reeled them in and is about to make short work of Manny Franco to the inside and powers up one more position.
Yeah, literally. That was impressive there. Different altering speed between the Ferrari and the Acura. That's quite remarkable.
And it didn't cost her any time relative to the leader either. She's as close as she's ever been, despite going side by side a few corners ago.
Yeah, she's just got to manage this now. She needs a little bit of direction on the radio. I know she's gaining experience, but this is where Mario Farnbacher, a teammate, and John Maraki can talk her through this. Listen, don't rush up on this leader like you did a couple of laps ago on the Ferrari. You've got the pace. You have time on your side right now. If it was 10 minutes to go, maybe be a bit more forceful, but unless there's a huge wreck, she's got time on her hands here to work over this Porsche and pick the moment.
Came up through the Lamborghini Super Trofeo ranks, did Ashton Harrison, where she became the first female driver to win a Super Trofeo World Final race. Did that back in 2019 in the LB Cup class. Stepped into GT3 cars in recent years and has been a quick study. She has been super quick, seemingly always up at the front, battling for a podium as she is today. Seth Lucas with Ashton Harrison just behind, hunting him down. It's been a great recovery for this Racer's Edge team. Let's not forget there was contact earlier in the race when Mario Farnbacher was driving the car that sent it in a spin, dropped them effectively to the back, if not all the way to the back of the Pro class, and since then they've been on the rebound, and right now Ashton Harrison is as close to the lead as they have been all day.
She is absolutely flying. She just laid down a lap within half a second of Mario's fast lap of the race, so this is a super impressive stint by here. She has really got the bit between her teeth and pushing hard for the lead.
She's doing it in traffic and on tires that are, what, 20 minutes at least into the stint?
Yeah, and let's not forget Mario got spun around. She's been off the road, and still she's right in the mix here for a win.
Just phenomenal. Good little team behind her, too, in Racer's Edge Motorsports. They do have a tie-in with Wayne Taylor Racing and Andretti Autosport. You can see that. Get a close-up of the mirrors on that car.
Watch this. The That Acura has some straightaway speed here. I'm not sure if they've trimmed it out a little bit or what's going on, but look at the speed that she's got down to the inside.
That caught Seth off guard. Ashton Harrison, book it. She goes P1 at Sonoma.
How impressive is this run here this afternoon?
Phenomenal.
John Marocchi said this car is not best suited to this racetrack. Well, if it's winning here and leading here, look out for the rest of the season.
That's a scary thought for the rest of the class, that's for sure. And the question was, all right, you step up to pro, where are you going to sort out in that bunch? The questions answered in the affirmative early on in the 2023 season.
Gaps the Porsche immediately now. Lucas is under attack by Manny Franco. That's for P2 we're looking at between the Porsche and the Ferrari.
Well, that's what you would expect to some degree of this trio. Ashton, amazingly, is the old hand. She's the one who's been around the block a couple of times in these types of races. All of this at this level is so new to the likes of Seth Lucas and Manny Franco. Manny did the weekend at Sebring last year, but that's the extent of his GT3 experience.
Yeah, we need to monitor the gap behind this pair because Eric Filgueras, yesterday's winner, is 5 seconds back, and he just laid down a lap about 8/10 quicker
Good catch.
than the cars in front of him. So he's got time to catch these.
Certainly does. Under 20 minutes to go in the second of 2 races for Fanatec GT World Challenge. Ashton Harrison, the leader, now in the pro class. Still has the lap car of James Safronis to deal with. That car delayed after a spin early on, and James sees her coming and wisely gives her plenty of room. This is how Ashton took the lead away.
Yeah, just came off the carousel with a burst of speed, and then just the straightaway speed of that Acura. We saw her just blow by Manny Franco on the front straightaway and does the same there on the run between 6 and 7.
Still some heads-up driving from 17-year-old Seth Lucas. Put up a fight, but didn't risk the car. They're in a position to have a very good day if things continue as they're running. Same could be said for George Kurtz and Colin Brown, Amanda.
Less than 18 minutes to go in this race, and at last lap by, it's about a 7.6 second gap between first and second, and it almost sounded as much as we were standing here, Colin, but when I got over here to let you guys know you were in first place, you were nowhere to be found. You said George has it. Where were you?
Yeah, I was back at the truck putting my helmet up, getting it cleaned up. I don't like getting out and then just sitting here and thinking about all that's going to happen. I like to go get away, think about it a little bit, and come back. And, you know, when you got a co-driver like George, it's not too stressful. You can just let him do his thing, and I know it's in good hands.
In good hands, you say. Why is George the perfect one to have the wheel of this car?
Well, you know, I think it's his work ethic, right? I mean, I think anyone can come into this sport and, you know, make a splash and you know, be a front runner, but I think it's the way that George goes about it. You know, he just works at it super hard on his own personal craft, keeps making, you know, gains, and is relentless. I mean, he had a great race this morning in the GTA race and went, hey, let's go sit down, go through the data, go through the video, and look where we can make this CrowdStrike Riley car better and faster, and he can do better. So I think he just pushes everybody around to keep working hard and doing better.
Colin's got some new jewelry this year. Picked up a wristwatch in January, winning overall. 24 Hours of Daytona. But he and George, they've been partnered together for a long time. George almost got a watch himself, actually. He came about as close as you can to winning. His car pipped at the line in that race, and that would have been interesting, Cal. 2 guys both winning their respective classes at Daytona, sharing a car. Almost, not quite.
Yeah, and they're going to share a car, however, at the Le Mans 24 running in
Yes.
prototype competition there together. So they've developed a great relationship, great chemistry. I mean, Colin has really been a great mentor and sounding board for George to learn the ropes here in motorsport.
This is the battle we were starting to wonder about. Would it begin? Could Filgueras run down this duo? And he's not there yet, but he's not too far behind either. We got a glimpse of him just a moment ago.
Cutting big chunks.
Yeah. Safronis has yielded to these 2 cars, second and third in the pro class, Lucas and Franco, but this is the chaser, and with the bit between his teeth, it's right on board with Eric Filgueras. so patient.
You do. That's the key. If you pick up the throttle too early in the middle of that corner, it just washes out the front end. So you just got to wait for that moment where you recognize you're in that position to do it. Uninterrupted acceleration coming off, but he's been carving about half a second or more out of that gap to the podium positions right in front of him. While there's the Sofrona's car immediately in front of him, but for position is just a couple of cars ahead. You could see Manny Franco and Seth Lucas in close proximity. Hopefully James will give him a clear berth here and he can go chase them down. He's certainly got the pace and probably enough time to do it.
The current pace, yeah, it looks like 4, maybe 5 laps to get there. But some of that is contingent on getting a little help from James.
Let's not forget, Ashton's not too far down the road. She sits about 2 seconds in front of Lucas right now. So Filgueira's laps have been a little bit quicker even than our pro lead of Ashton Harrison right now.
Well, we did it once before, let's do it again. Let's listen in to the sounds of a Porsche Flat 6. Out in front, breaking out once again. Manny Franco, he knows Filgueiras is coming, so now he's pushing that Ferrari 296, trying to find a way to get past the second place car in the Pro Class, Seth Lucas.
Filgueiras has cleared Sofronas. He's going to chase after this pair. Look at this. Franco down to the inside. Makes the move on Lucas. That's for P2 in the Pro Class. Ashton Harrison continues to lead.
Awesome stuff from Manny. And again, heads up driving from Seth, not compromising his race car. He's still in podium contention, but he's got Filgueiras closing in. You can see that green accented Porsche, the winner overall yesterday, recovering still from a less than desirable qualifying position here today, but they're on their way forward, and Filgueiras certainly has the pace. He's charging, trying to get on the podium.
Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS, is brought to you by Skip Barber Racing School, VP Racing, Optima Batteries, and 511.
Overall leader is still George Kurtz. His advantage over Ziad Gondor, 9.2 seconds. Ziad, though, has been Mr. Consistent right behind him. Adam Adelson has made some headway, but not a lot. It's still an 8-second, nearly 9-second gap from this car to the third place running car overall and in Pro-Am of Adam Adelson.
That's enough of a gap for Ziad to manage this and hang on to the P2, but it's going to get a lot tighter at the pace that they're displaying right now for Adelson to close in on this second position and second overall.
Yeah, not quite a second, but close. The difference in pace between the two. Right here, car that is a little bit down in the order. That's Justin Wetherell right now. Triarsi Competizione is the team. Currently 16th on the leaderboard. Ryan Dial started that car. Here is Adelson, a winner yesterday in Pro-Am, winner on the road this morning at GT America. We understand there was a penalty that could have, or could yet affect that ultimate finishing position, but he has been quick. And Charlie Luck, Samantha Tan. We haven't peeked in on these two in a while. Not much has changed.
They're running very comparable lap times here. I think initially it looked like Samantha was into a rhythm a bit quicker than Charlie, but Charlie settled back down, doing a really nice job here.
Samantha had a great qualifying effort yesterday and dropped a bunch of spots right off the bat. And we weren't sure if that was just her struggling to come to grips with the car or if there was something amiss. Ultimately, that car was retired early. Didn't quite get to the bottom of exactly what put them out, but they've shown the pace today in race 2. John Edwards started on pole, ran 3rd for much of his stint. Samantha's been turning good lap times, putting some pressure on Charlie Luck. Just haven't quite seen her find the solution to his riddle just yet.
So we kept it close, but Charlie settled down. He's got a ton of experience now, and he's another driver who's not afraid to get his elbows out and defend vigorously for that position. But Samantha's learning. She's learning a lot. She's really ramped up her fitness under the tutelage of Nick Jonsson, the Swede, who has a stunning racing career behind him himself, but just really knows all of the boxes that you need to take to be successful in this sport.
Great resource for Samantha to have. And behind her, Ashton Harrison, the leader in the pro class by 2.8 seconds over Manny Franco. There's your leader in the pro class. 6th on the road, Ashton Harrison, who fought her way past first Manny Franco, then Seth Lucas, and now finds herself with a nearly 2-second lead over Franco, who has himself passed Lucas in recent laps. And Eric Filgaris, yep, he's closed that gap. He was within a half a second at the line of Lucas for the final step of the podium in pro.
Yeah, he's going to be sniffing for that position on this very lap. He is right there. You'll see in the backdrops they come through the corners just behind these guys. So Franco has taken off a little bit here from Seth Lucas, but Lucas has now got the attention of Filgaris all over him for that final podium spot today.
There is Manny running a very solid second. When he debuted at Sebring alongside Alessandro Balzan last year, he was initially listed as a Pro-Am driver pairing, and that was quickly amended because although he had never raced a GT3 car before, he was really, really fast.
Yeah, super impressive. And there you see in the backdrop that black and green RS1 Racing Porsche right on the tail of Seth Lucas, so that is going to develop into a great little battle here in these last 7 minutes or so. Franco's closer to Harrison. That gap is being erased quickly here. Could this be a surprise in the final few laps?
Yeah, Manny had a second of pace in hand over Ashton on the previous lap. We'll check this lap as soon as they cross the timing line. As you mentioned, though, here comes Filgaris, just his first weekend in a GT3 car, the reigning Pirelli GT4 America Silver Class champion. We're on board with the RS1 driver. Put a punctuation point on the Harrison-Franco comparison. Manny found another 7/10 that last time around, and he's got 7 minutes to play with, so still time for something to happen at the front of the pro field.
Yeah, very much so. Maybe those little subtle adjustments to the Ferrari that come into play here. Team admits they're not really dialed in on the new chassis. It's going to be an improvement. It's going to be a good car, they say. It's so sophisticated, beautiful race car, but right now this is the battle we're looking at with one of these new Porsches. This is the second-gen Porsche that the RS1 team are running.
Both of these are actually. MDK also running the newest version of the 911. So this is an even fight between these two. It comes down now to the setup and the guy behind the wheel.
Closed quickly, but now it's just kind of settled there. I'm not sure if he's picking up any aero wash, and that could be a factor.
Oh, big slide there from Seth. Great job to catch it. Kind of parked it there at the apex and then bulked the run that Eric was starting to get.
The little bobble there, those electronic aids can help you at times, but also just kind of stymie you. Sometimes you just want to be able to get off that pedal and continue to roll through the corner, and that electronic aid with the ABS is kicking in.
Let's go back to a previous conversation. This is the first race weekend for Filgaris in this car. He started on pole yesterday. He never really ran in any kind of traffic. He was not in this position at all. So he is sizing up some of his first passes for position in GT3 competition right before our eyes.
Yeah, and they're just figuring the solution to the puzzle. Let's take another look here. This is in the turn 9 brake zone. Turns in just a little bit sideways there, loses the rear end. has to catch it. Nice job there. Nowhere for Filgueras to go with it. Yes, good point though. Just figuring out the solution to the puzzle. Maybe just try and tug that front end a little bit, get some air to one of those dive planes rather than having a total washout with that front aero effect.
You can tell.
There he goes. He's close. He's got a good run going here.
He does. He had to
Lucas
fight
better
it.
defend this.
Lucas got just enough of a run out of the carousel to prevent Filgueras from throwing it up the inside, out through the S's. Oh, here we go. Manny Franco working on Harrison. I wonder if Samantha Tan, they were working their way past her, if that had anything to do with it. Franco takes a look, back to the outside he goes. Harrison covers the inside. For now, holds the lead in Pro. George Kurtz controls the overall lead, but Pro very much up for grabs in the late stages at Sonoma. Well, these leaders in the Pro class, Kyle, they were catching and ultimately did catch Samantha Tan and Charlie Luck, and we didn't see it, but I wonder if working that traffic is what gave Franco the chance to pounce.
Well, he was catching Ashton here, so it seems like at the end of this race, either the Ferrari has come alive or maintained pace, and Ashton has just dropped off a little bit. I mean, she just had such monster pace there in the beginning and middle stint, part of her stint, but she's definitely backed up a little bit, so now she's got to draw on the experience that she has so far in her career to just try and bring it home. They had a bunch of victories last year on their way to that Pro-Am Championship, 4 wins plus 4 podiums, so she's been in this position before. It looks like in the backdrop there, so Filgueras really, really close to Seth Lucas as well, so there's battles everywhere right now. Oh, this touch! Filgueras goes around in the backdrop.
That was from 4th place in Pro. We'll wait and see if Chandler Hull can take advantage of that and come through. Not sure what led to it, but we go back now to the battle for the lead in the Pro class. Manny Franco had dropped off, but he is back, closing in on the Racer's Edge Acura.
That was wild. Let's take another look at this and see how the battle for P3 and Pro developed there down in turn 7. Filgueras is getting ever closer to Seth Lucas there and just tries to make that second move into the turn 7 double apexer and gets up on the curb, it looks like, and enough to rotate the car around.
Exactly. Did look like there was some contact. I think maybe a dive plane broke off the right front of that car. Certainly saw some residue of that contact on the track.
Should be 2 laps to go for most of these cars. George Kurtz continues to lead overall. He's about 30, 40 seconds up the road.
And Adelson has continued to make headway, but I think he's going to run out of time. He still has 4.6 seconds left to overcome in his pursuit of Ziad Gondor, but he has been knocking down some really fast laps in recent laps.
Yeah, over a second a lap quicker than
Correct.
Gondor, so he is closing in a hurry, but time is not on his side.
Here we go, the leaders in the Pro class. It's still Harrison over Franco with just 90 seconds left. Ashton Harrison continuing to keep Manny Franco at bay, but the out-of-class car of Charlie Luck, which is running 4th overall and has been as quick as the leader, in fact, looms ahead. There's the white flag for the leader, George Kurtz, but we drop back about a third of a lap, and that's where we find this great scrap for the lead in the Pro class. And a few moments ago, this is what happened. Filgueras caught the curb, went bounding over it into the door of Seth Lucas and spun out of the 4th spot, but it does look like he was able to retain it.
Looked like a pretty late move there by Eric. Got a little bit aggressive with that and had nowhere to go other than the T-bone. Seth Lucas, he had to take to the curb, and that was enough to rotate the rear of that Porsche around.
White flag for the leader in Pro. That's Ashton Harrison chasing the car she pipped to the championship in Pro-Am last year.
They had some good battles last year.
They did, and Ashton would love to avoid something like that breaking out here on this final lap. That would bring Manny Franco right back into the equation.
She needs some help, but what a weekend for George Kurtz. 2 great podiums in GTA, and following up on a podium run here yesterday. They have ticked every box. Colin Brown got the lead early around pole sitter John Edwards halfway through the opening lap, and they haven't looked back since.
Well, that's it.
Oh, here we go. Franco right there on Ashton Harrison.
Will Harrison get defensive? Yes, she will. She guards the inside in the run down to turn 7. The traffic just ahead is a pretty fast car.
Franco to the inside. He's going to go for it.
Oh,
Contact.
He throws it up the inside, and he's able to slip past. But how will the stewards look at that? Meanwhile, George Kurtz rounds turn 11 for the final time. Riley Motorsports with CrowdStrike coming around to take the checkered flag. They win race 2 at Sonoma.
Great performance, but this battle rages here. Franco has the lead with a little bump and run there in turn 7.
A little bit of a problem putting the power down for Ashton there. You can see the car squirm. Franco, give him credit. He saw a gap and he went for it.
She
Will Ashton
puts it
do
to
the same?
inside.
Harrison to the inside. Franco gives room. Hip check. It's going to be a drag race to the line as Harrison tries to close the door. One more time through turn 12. Ashton Harrison, Racer's Edge, win the Pro Class.
Wow, what a last lap between those two. That was something. Great driving by both of them, putting it all on the line.
Phenomenal finish to a wonderful race. It ran green to the checkered flag. And it came down to the wire. Margin of victory, 0.3 of a second. Look at the smiles on the Racer's Edge crew. That's Mario there with his arm around one of the crew members.
That was a wild day for them.
Phenomenal stuff. Dominant win, though, for George Kurtz and Colin Brown. We'll be hearing from them shortly from Victory Lane. There they are, race winners. Colin Brown, George Kurtz, CrowdStrike by Riley. That's the team. And Mercedes-AMG reigns supreme in Northern California. Calvin, you called it. That move at the start of the race by Colin Brown to grab the lead, everything stemmed from that. He was able to build an advantage. He had clean air. They ran him fairly deep into the pit window, and then George Kurtz did the rest. He had to track down Ziad Gondor. Took him a couple of laps, but not too long.
No, and the interesting dynamic there is that John Edwards and Colin Brown are best of buds, so you have to put that all aside. Once the helmet goes on, it's just another competitor that you're going to rub up against, but he just took off. I mean, they had found the sweet spot with the setup on that CrowdStrike by Riley machine, and it's really interesting to see. You see the damage there with Ashton's car. That's been through the wars. Mario got tipped around by Spencer Pompelli. Elbows were out on that last lap. Manny Franco forced her way by. Ashton was also in the grass when she rushed up on the lead pairing earlier in the race, so quite the story.
And a nice quiet day as they were hoping for the lone AM-class car in the field. Anthony Martone takes it home. Car he shares with Andy Pilgrim. And look at the elation. Colin Brown quickly into the cockpit to congratulate his longtime partner, student, colleague, George Kurtz, smiling from ear to ear under that CrowdStrike liveried helmet. We'll be hearing from them shortly. And I'll tell you what, Harrison and Franco, not sure those two have ever raced together that close before. It was on the edge, but they made it work.
They did. And I think Ashton was probably fired up about the little bump and run, and I think the Manny Franco, he'll learn from that. He needs to protect that inside lane. She might have run right over the top of him anyway, but you can't leave that door open last corner of the final lap.
For sure, but these are the lessons you learn in just your 4th ever GT3 race. Manny Franco and Ashton Harrison put on an absolute show for us in the final laps of this second race of the weekend at Sonoma. We'll be hearing from our winners in just a few moments. Celebrations already beginning in Victory Circle. Let's hear from our winners with Amanda.
George, you kick off the first event of this Fanatec GT season with a win here in race number 2. Your team was there to greet you at the wall in celebration. What kind of sight is that to see?
Oh, just incredible. Team did such a great job, and we had good pace all weekend, and we just needed to put it together, get a little bit of luck, and Colin did just a killer job on his first stint there, gave me a lead, and we came out behind the other Mercedes, but we were able to get a good pass done and take it home for the overall win, so we're really proud of that.
George, I see a little emotion from you there, and Colin, when you see that and what you guys get to share as teammates, you said how much trust you had in your driver. You kicked off this race, and the Mercedes just seemed to fit right here at Sonoma, but seeing George's emotion, just the relationship with you guys.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, a heck of a friendship we've had over the years. See George, develop into who he is today as a driver's incredibly impressive. And yeah, I mean, a home race for the CrowdStrike Riley team. We got a ton of people out here for a big CXO event we had. So super big for CrowdStrike, for George, for us, for Riley Motorsports to be able to grab a win. I mean, what a heck of a pass by GK at the end there to get back into the lead. So super cool, super proud of everybody. And man, just a heck of an event for all of us. And yeah, man, what a day, what a day.
Well, as we head over to your pro winners here today, huge hugs happening between the Racers Edge team. We're going to try to sneak in here. Gosh, I can't even imagine the conversations that it's having between these two teammates. Ashton, I'm going to go straight to you on this last lap. You and Manny, man, you guys gave us some entertainment there. He went around you, and you did not let up. No quit out of you. What emotion did you feel when you had that battle with Manny?
Well, I knew that they was going to be tough at the end. I saw he was picking up pace the last couple laps, and I was just trying to maintain my tires, preparing to have a fight at the end. And so, it's unfortunate because I wasn't willing to give up that spot, and he wanted to take it from me, and I knew I had no other shot. I honestly went into the last corner thinking I'm either going to fly straight past him or it's going to stick. I have no other option. So it worked. I couldn't believe it worked. And then I remember just hitting the radio button and screaming, "I'm really sorry" to my crew. I was just like, oh my God, it just happened. So super thankful for Racers Edge and our engineer Jim and Nick, our car chief, and all the crew, and John Meraki. They gave us an amazing car. Mario did a phenomenal job recovering from that spin early on. And so excited to have our Harrison Contracting Acura NSX in Victory Lane.
Mario, I saw you guys yesterday after the podium celebration. You guys were on it, but this team seemed dissatisfied. Talk about the rebounding of this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be with them, It's they're growing on me, and it's a big family, so it's great to be around them, and she did a really fantastic job today. I mean, I'm super proud of her. Was big high and low today, but in the end it was a high, so that's what we need.
High emotions in Victory Lane here on a Sunday in Sonoma Valley. Results from race 2 of the weekend. George Kurtz, Colin Brown leading 4 Pro-Am cars in the top 4 overall. Then in 5th, you find Harrison and Farnbacher for Racers Edge. Barely eking it out ahead of the Conquest guys. You feel like a win might be in the cards for them before too much longer.
Yeah, very much so. They're going to get a handle on that new Ferrari and be faster as this season progresses.
Fantastic racing up and down. See MDK Motorsports, they ran at the front of that pro class for some time. Their first race weekend in GT World Challenge America, ultimately settling for the third spot on the podium, but strong run for them across the board. Podium celebrations commence here in Sonoma. 3rd place in the pro class belongs to MDK Motorsports, Seth Lucas and Trenton Estep. 2 guys that I think we're going to see a ton of growth out of as this season progresses. Good to see a smile on Manny Franco's face. He came so close to getting a win here today. Gave it everything he had.
Well, he's enjoying the ride, enjoying the journey. I mean, he'll get to a point in his career he'll expect to win in those scenarios, but right now it's still a really solid result. Great points, and what a performance by Ashton there on the final lap. They shake hands, no hard feelings. And this is going to be a fun championship, seeing some of these new lineups, how they progress.
as good of a last lap at Sonoma as I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was exciting.
Great battle to the finish, and Danny Sullivan would be proud. Spin to win for Racer's Edge today. They were pointed the wrong direction halfway through Mario Farnbacher's stint, but never say die.
They got the wrong trophies, I think.
Well, this is what you get when you get a whole new crop of drivers.
Yeah,
They've not been
with
here
Seth
before.
Lucas, he should have some sharp eyes, know which one says second and which one says third.
Yeah, you think so. Seth Lucas, his podium streak in GT3 racing continues. I believe every time he started a race in a GT3 car, he has podiumed. It's not many races, but that is something. Now lift those trophies up and celebrate a job well done today. You know, some might look at this and think, well, the pro class is down in 5th and 6th and 8th. That's their podium in terms of overall behind the Pro-Am. But if you've been paying attention, you shouldn't be surprised. One, many of these AMs and Pro-Am have taken a big step forward. But two, the fact that it is a silver mandated driver as part of these lineups in Pro, you're going to see some of this year.
You are, and I think it's going to be exciting because I think you're going to see them all in a cluster, like the Pro-Ams and the Pros having pretty equal driver lineups over the course of a 90-minute event, and it could be a shake-up every weekend.
Talked about it in the Open to the first race of the weekend and of the season. It's just the most wide-open championship in Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, in recent memory. And that's exactly the way it played out here this weekend. Impossible to predict, and very different results as well if you look at what we saw yesterday and today. Some of the same cars were quick, but not all of them finished in those same positions. Look at that celebration. Those are two good friends as well as teammates. They'll walk off the stage to celebrate a job well done. Racer's Edge Motorsports prevails in the Pro class. Back at Sonoma Raceway, where the grass is green, it is springtime, and we were treated to a phenomenal second race of the season. Congratulations to George Kurtz and Colin Brown, who picked up the overall win. Ashton Harrison and Mario Farnbacher just wrapped up celebrating on the podium, taking home the Pro Class victory with a 5th overall result. And we should mention, too, that again, it was a nice, clean, quiet day for the lone AM class car in the field. We expect more AM entries later in the season, but for Anthony Bartone in particular and his coach and co-driver Andy Pilgrim, you know, we didn't really say their name much, and that's a job well done. They're just logging laps and getting Anthony some experience.
Yeah, and there's a lot of potential there as well. Anthony Bartone has really shown some great speed early in his career, just like Manny Franco has, just like guys like Seth Lucas have. And it's an exciting season. I mean, you know, some of the favorites have gone away, and has opened up the doors for new combinations, some new teams entering the championship for the very first time. Drivers experiencing these GT3 machines for the first time, but stepping up immediately. It's going to be a great 2023.
Cool to see that group. That's going to be the Pro podium, or Pro-Am podium, and overall podium when they end up on the stage. Right there you see the two guys from the AM class we were talking about. Anthony on the right, part of that famous drag racing Bartone family. And Andy Pilgrim, for a longtime sports car racing fan, he needs no introduction. Many years as a GM factory driver. Great mentor for Anthony to have as he begins this adventure in sports car racing. Saw Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier take their place up on the rostrum. Now Ziad Gondor, who spent a decent portion of his stint out in the overall lead, and Daniel Morad, who has been quick all weekend, taking their spots there. Second place today. And your winners, Colin Brown and George Kurtz, accepting the adulation of the crowd and of their competitors.
Yeah, I think the win here for the Pro-Am class is all about total execution, whereas a real battle in the pro ranks to get that final step on the podium.
Trophies go up. Smiles all around. Andy giving Anthony there just a little advice. Yeah, get that trophy up extra high. It's good for the photographers. An old hand like Andy would know that. Well, that was a fun weekend here at Sonoma. Hope you enjoyed it. Up next for Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, a trip to the Big Easy, NOLA Motorsports Park. But for now, so long from Northern California. Champagne celebration well and truly underway. I think the spray is just about done at this point. Now you just get to take a few sips, maybe a gulp or two. Easier to do when you're celebrating on a Sunday with no race looming tomorrow, as opposed to winning or finishing on the podium yesterday.
That's right. You certainly have to curtail those celebrations a little bit earlier on Saturday, but a lot of these drivers may be heading home tonight, but hopefully they can enjoy this beautiful part of the world that we're competing in this weekend. Sonoma Valley is just fantastic. If you haven't been here before, if you're listening in, just try and make it part of your bucket list.
Certainly a great racetrack to visit if you can. Here was the start to our second race of the weekend today. John Edwards, he had the pole and he did grab the lead, but it was not long for this world because Colin Brown quickly went on the attack. He grabbed the lead. This was a big moment here. Around with Mario Farnbacher off the nose of Spencer Pompelli, but that did not bury them. This was interesting. Two teammates on split strategies. We saw how that played out. After the pit stops, though, it was George Kurtz charging from second and about 4 seconds back to pass Ziad Gondor for the overall lead. And then Ashton Harrison knifing her way through the traffic, ultimately taking the lead. Kurtz and Brown winners overall and in Pro-Am, but what a final lap it was for the Pro class. Manny Franco sends it up the inside, but Ashton Harrison repays him in kind. In the final corner, gets the elbows out, gets into the side of the 21 and accelerates away to take a memorable win in race 2 of the weekend at Sonoma.